You think you know me. You guys have made more than 20 assumptions about me, so I want to go over them with you and let you know if you're right. And you know what? I got more than one comment saying that I get these comments all the time, that some of you wish that we lived closer and said that we would be friends in real life, and man, would I love that. That would be so awesome if I could meet up with some of my viewers, followers, whatever I call yourself. I should give you guys a name. I need to come up with a fun name for you guys. If you guys have any ideas for the tribe that we are, leave them below. That would be so fun. Okay, so first assumption here. You would be fun to have coffee with. That's so subjective. I would have to ask my friends who have coffee with me every once in a while, do you think I'm fun? I will say the people that I've gone to have coffee with, we talk for hours, and sometimes we're talking about the Lord, sometimes we're just talking about issues with our kids, and it's just fun for a mom to get out. So I'm always up for a coffee date. So I think since I'm always up for it, that means when I do get to do it, I'm always in a good mood, which means good mood equals fun. So I think probably, but that one's a hard one to answer about myself. I assume your house is always clean and you are on top of everything. If my husband's watching this, he's laughing right now. Although I think my husband's harder on us and the state of our home than he should be, because first of all, no, my house is not always clean. And if you've watched any of my videos about how we keep the chores, like how I try to stay on top of the chores, I think in both videos I've ever made about that, I've said if you want your house clean, invite people over. And that really is the strategy that we use. Like if our house is starting to feel really, really messy and we need a good kick in the pants to get it done, I will invite people over, because that pressure of I don't want somebody else to come in and see the dust over here, or you know, to see all the little bits of stuff all over the floor that seem to keep coming back. Inviting people over does tend to motivate me to do a deeper clean. But it's cleaning the house. I have a big house, you guys. I mean, I think it's a big house. We've got a basement and 2 floors, and I think altogether, I don't know what square feet is. Altogether, square footage of my house is probably 3,500 square feet. It's a lot of house to clean. I'll just say this, I'm not exactly to the point in my family where I can divvy out a bunch of tasks and like we can get the house clean in an hour or 2. We're not quite there yet. It's still kind of like most of it depends on mom and dad. My son pretty much takes care of the basement and he does a lot of yard work, but there's still so much on my shoulders, so no. No, don't beat yourself up about it. In fact, when I first started homeschooling, I was reading like books on how to homeschool, and there were several, and I know homeschool moms also who've done this, but they advise you to get a house cleaner, because homeschooling and raising children is that much work. Can you believe that? And I know homeschool moms who have done that. I wish I could afford a house cleaner. I've brought it up to my husband on more than one occasion, like, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a cleaning lady come every 2 weeks? But we've never done it. There are homeschoolers who do it. So don't feel bad if your home is not neat and tidy all the time. You can only do what you can do, and I don't beat myself up about it, except when company's coming over. Next assumption is you wake up goal-oriented, then squirrel. Some days I wake up goal-oriented. I mean, every single night I go to bed, it's like, tomorrow is a new day, right? There's always tomorrow. Sometimes I wake up goal-oriented. It depends on how well I sleep, because sometimes I'm like dragging myself out of bed and I can't think, and if I don't have a plan written down, like I literally cannot think. My mom would say to me, you need to take your fish oil. I probably do, because my short-term memory really stinks. So yeah, I probably would say, yeah, that's me most of the time, waking up thinking the day's going to be different, and then squirrel stuff happens. That's probably true. Unless company's coming over, then I'm very goal-oriented. Okay, the next assumption is that you eat the same thing for breakfast every day. Okay, so this is kind of Interesting. I've actually been trying intermittent fasting the last 2 months, but for the most part, when I did eat breakfast more regularly, yes, I ate the same thing every single day for breakfast. It was a protein bar, clean bar from Costco. I think those are probably some of the tastiest protein bars, and they have like 20 grams of protein. They come in a big box. I don't know how many is in a box if you have a Costco membership, but half of it is like sea salt dark chocolate, and the other half is a peanut butter, probably milk chocolate, because I don't think it's dark chocolate. The peanut butter one always goes first because my husband and I, and actually my 13-year-old also likes these bars. So the peanut butter one always goes first. I always try to hide a few. I'm sneaky like that. I'm the mom who, if candy comes home or some sort of sweet treat, it's going to get devoured if I don't hide it, because my family does not know how to do things in moderation. So I will often hide it to help make it last longer. But yes, clean bars, protein bars, practically every day. You make sure everything for every subject is done and you don't skip things. No, I skip things all the time. I can't even say that I'm rigid about making sure the math is done for the day. Math is probably the thing that I skip the least. But if I opted for Bible study and read aloud, and like maybe we had doctor's appointments or there's dance class, and it depends on who it is. So like my son pretty much manages his own work, but I know he's going to complete his whole math curriculum because it's online and he needs to complete it in order to move to the next online class. Like we can't finish a curriculum and then move on. And my youngest child, I might let her skip a math lesson because she's ahead in math for her grade level. My middle child, I make her do her math because we've had to repeat so much. So it just depends who it is, but overall, no. I am actually, as much as you probably think I'm rigid and type A and making the plan, I love making the plans. I'm not as good at following the plans all the time. I am pretty flexible when it comes to the school week and the school day. I've learned to let it go. You are a 2-cup-a-day coffee girl. Well, it depends on what you mean by a cup. Do you mean 8 ounces? Then yes, I am at least a 16-ounce cup coffee girl because I have those thermoses, like those Yeti thermoses, and I fill up a whole thermos, and there is very rarely will I go back for more coffee, but it has happened. But if I go back to fill up like another thermos, which is usually like if my coffee's sucked down before 10 o'clock and I'm like, I still need coffee. But even then, I don't usually drink a second 16 ounce. So I would say 16 ounce on average, very rarely more than that. And I actually just ordered something. I'm waiting for it to come in the mail. I'm trying that cacao that's not coffee, but it's like brewing chocolate. So I'm excited to try that and see, because that's supposed to like not have caffeine in it, and it's supposed to be a little bit healthier for you. I think one of you guys are the ones who told me about it, because one of my videos about my weaknesses, I told you how tired I am all the time because I'm anemic and I don't sleep well, and I think 1 or 2 of you mentioned cacao, so I have ordered it. I'm just waiting for it to come in. This one's an interesting one. I love your honesty and that you speak your mind. It's so refreshing. My assumption is that it gets you into trouble sometimes. Love your channel. You're the kind of quirky I wish I could be. Thank you. I'm glad somebody appreciates my quirkiness. My honesty getting me into trouble. I actually asked my husband about this because I think sometimes I think that somebody's offended by my honesty, but I don't usually have people come to me and tell me that they're offended. And so it could just be like a story I'm making up in my mind, because honestly, I'm honest when it comes to certain things, okay? If I'm honest in defending the truth of the Bible, I'm honest in defending the ministry of my church in terms of like showing respect to those who God has put as leaders for us. Like, I'm honest in that way. And I'm honest with certain people. So I'm brutally honest with my husband. I'm brutally honest with my mom and my dad and my children. And then when I go outside of those, I'm a little bit more conflict averse. Is that the right word? Where like I really try to avoid conflict in the way that like if I'm bothered by something, I try to be the bigger person. I try to just absorb it, which isn't always healthy. I try to let it roll off my back. I am actually not very easily offended, so a lot of times I can let things roll off my back. I don't know. I'm bold, and yet I'm pretty careful about how I present that boldness, because the Bible says you have to be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. And so I do really try to be that way. Okay, so this person asked me if I prefer coffee or tea, and I answered that in my Q&A video, which I prefer coffee, but I also do drink hot tea. She said, I assume coffee is sweet and flavored, and if you like tea, not as sweet. And so I would say actually it's the opposite. My coffee is black, unless I'm getting like a latte or some what I call frou-frou drink. Then of course it's going to have sugar and sweetener in it. But normally, like when I'm at home, I'm drinking black coffee, no sweetener, no creamer. And if I'm drinking hot tea, which this is normally what I go for, especially in the winter at the end of the day, if I still want a hot drink, I go for the peppermint tea. And if not peppermint, Trader Joe's has this white pomegranate flavored, that's cool. I like orange flavored hot tea, kind of like the fruity hot tea flavors, or like a cinnamon hot tea. So I actually rarely ever go for just an Earl Grey or a chamomile type of tea. It's usually an herbal like peppermint or a fruity flavor. No creamer, no sugar. It's black all the way. The next person said, I assume you're very outgoing, good with people, and have lots of friends. I'm not outgoing at all. In fact, I am an observer of people. When I first meet you, like it would be very, very rare for me to just come up to somebody brand new and just start gabbing away and like talk to somebody that I don't know. No, I'm very awkward, in my opinion, when I first meet people, because my personality is the type that, and I'm going to talk more about this later because somebody mentioned Myers-Briggs in one of their assumptions, but I am the type that is trying to figure out who you are first so that I know how to communicate effectively with you, if that makes sense. So no, I'm not very outgoing. Having lots of friends, that's a tough one. I would like to say that I have lots of friends because I have a church and they're all my friends, but I've actually felt pretty much my entire life like an outsider. I've never really felt like I had a lot of friends. I'm kind of more of a loyalist in that I would rather have a best friend or a few very close friends. I'm not very good at superficial type relationships. So if we can't have the type of friendship where either we're going to bond over something like homeschool and we have similar views on homeschool, or similar spiritual views, something deep like how we parent our children, if I don't have something deep to connect with you on, friendship is very difficult with me. I'm not a how is the weather type girl or what'd you have for dinner type girl. Small talk, I loathe it. Unless we're friends, then I can do small talk, but small talk with strangers, I hate it. I assume you're always put together with makeup, nice clothes, and hair done. The older I get, the less put together I feel. When I had a job, yes, I absolutely was always put together. I always had a very nice wardrobe for work. I still don't do this. I don't leave the house without makeup on, so I will go that far. Now, do I get up every day for homeschool and get dressed and do my hair and put makeup on? No. In fact, that's something that this year is going to be kind of my little New Year's resolution for myself, is I'm going to try to look more put together for my own children's sake. So I don't look like a tired mom all the time, because typically that's what I look like every day. I have the messy bun up in my hair, except for it doesn't have this cute little curl going on. I don't put earrings on, I don't put makeup on if I'm not leaving the house. If I leave the house, even then I'm I'm not necessarily going to do my hair if I'm just like out running errands. The messy bun's still going to apply. Now, when I went to classical conversations, I looked cute. I tried. When I had a co-op to go to, I did try to do my hair and my makeup and pick out a cute outfit. So my assumption is that your kids are super well behaved. That's probably depends on who you ask. I would be curious what my friends and what my family think. My first child and my last child, very well behaved. Very obedient children. They don't usually break the rules when they are, my son especially, he has always been kind of drawn more to kids older than him. And so I think that's kind of made him act more mature for his age. He likes listening to adults talk. So yeah, he has socialized himself by being around adults. And so he tends to behave himself more as an adult for the most part. I do hear that when our teen group gets together that he can get a little silly and make people laugh. But I mean, that doesn't mean he's not well behaved. So yes, definitely. And my youngest one, even at home, she's very, very well behaved, very helpful. My middle child, she's a little bit of a free spirit. She's more happy-go-lucky. She doesn't think through consequences. And she's also a teenager, and I've noticed this about teenagers, that they tend to get loud. Anybody else with teenagers notice that all of a sudden they start screaming and their voice, the volume of their voice, it gets obnoxious sometimes, and sometimes she actually does this in public. And she will pull my younger one into trouble sometimes when we will go out to stores or something. If she's bored, she's the type where that she might run through the aisles or go hide in the clothing racks or something. I mean, now that she's a teenager, she's starting to calm down a little bit in that area. But definitely when she was like a lot younger, even up until 11 years old, I was still like, oh my goodness, I hated going into public with my middle child and any other child because she was always trying to get them into trouble. Like, she didn't consider getting into trouble, but she was always trying to have fun in a public space in a way that was not well behaved. But if I took her out on her own, like where it was just she and me, then she was fine. So for the most part, my children are well behaved. My assumption is that if we lived in the same city, we would be in real life friends. Yes, Elaine, one of my very first subscribers, so I will never forget you, Elaine. Love it whenever you comment because I'm like, Elaine was like one of the first. But yes, we would probably be real life friends. I'm always up for friends, you guys. That's like why, especially friends who want to get away from coffee dates, right? And I feel like sometimes I'm stuck in a world where everybody is so busy and so busy with their kids or so busy with their own life that they don't have time for girl time, and I need girl time. So I wish you all lived closer to me so we could go have some coffee and have some girl time together. I assume you are a peaceful person and hardly ever lose your cool, and you'd be fun to be around. My husband is probably laughing, but you know, your husband, they're always going to have just a completely skewed view, right? I think it probably depends on what you mean. But for the most part, like in terms of, I'm not walking around feeling frantic and feeling like making myself a victim all the time. In fact, I'm the opposite of making myself a victim all the time, in that if I'm feeling stressed and burdened about something, there are very, very few people that would know. I keep a lot of that to myself. So my husband would know, and my dad, who's my pastor, he might know. My mom probably would know. And beyond those three, I'm just not a sharer. I'm kind of private in that way. Peaceful in terms of easy to get along with. I think I'm very easy to get along with. But I am bold and I am opinionated, and not everybody can handle that. Whereas like, I welcome a debate about ideas. If you have a better way, let's discuss it. I'm not offended by feedback or criticism, and not everybody is like that. And so sometimes I tend to give my feedback or point out a different way, and I think sometimes people don't just want you to leave them alone. And I say this in terms of, because like in my church, I'm a committee leader for a couple committees. And so it's my job to kind of figure out how to do things better. Even like when I was in CC, same thing. Like I would give feedback, and I don't know that everybody always wants feedback, but for the most part, like if you push back on me and say, no, I really think we should do it this way, and for these reasons, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't take things personally like that. So I think I'm easy to get along with. Now, hardly ever lose your cool. Again, you know, dynamics can be a little bit different with your husband, so he would probably, I'm a little bit more vulnerable around my husband, I'll put it that way. And so he might see me break down and cry more frequently and understand more of those things than somebody else. But like losing my temper, I think I have pretty good control of my temper. I think if I'm under a lot of stress and like the house is just a mess and I'm the only one that's attempting to pick up and do my chores and all that stuff, that there can be a point where like I lose it, because that sort of visual clutter and messes with my mind. And so that might make me lose it a little bit. But for the most part, I don't really think I lose my temper. Again, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. That's what I try to be. I think you are a person who enjoys making crafts. I can envision you sitting at your table making homemade gifts for your loved ones. You come across as such a giving person. I would be so curious to know why you think that about me. Like, what in my videos has given you the impression that I like making crafts? But you are correct. I don't make crafts, but I like doing those sorts of things with my hands. I used to do scrapbooking back in the day when I actually had time to do that stuff. Every year for Christmas, I dream about making things, and I will, like on Instagram, I have, what do you call the place where you save things? Are they like boards, or, you know, like on Pinterest, they're called boards. I don't know. I have one called Christmas Ideas, where I just have a ton of Christmas ornaments and Christmas cards and Christmas garland type crafts saved in there, that I just like dream about one day being able to sit down and just make things. I do enjoy that. I don't get to, though. Not at this stage in my life. Homeschooling, as you know, is a lot of time. And I had a lot more time to do some of those things when I was a working mom, believe it or not. During the holidays, I think that you are a Hallmark movie watcher. I can see you with your choice of hot beverage, curled up with your dog or your husband, just watching the newest movie. Yes and no. My mom is a Hallmark movie watcher, though. She like saves all of them on her DVR, and so every year, if I have time to watch movies, like while I'm wrapping gifts or something, I will ask her, what's the newest Hallmark movie I should watch? For the most part, I like the Candace Cameron Bure movies, so if she has a new movie coming out, I almost always watch it. And Allison Sweeney is the other like Hallmark movie gal that I like most of her movies, so those are the two that I definitely like to watch, but I don't watch them all. I'm kind of a more traditional movie watcher, so every year at Christmas time, I'm watching Home Alone, and I'm watching Elf, and It's a Wonderful Life, and I like the really old vintage Christmas movies, like Christmas in Connecticut, Holiday Inn. I've actually never seen the old-fashioned Miracle on 34th Street, White Christmas. So anyway, I wish that they had 1940s, 50s, 60s channel where I could just watch all of those Christmas specials and shows, because that's like the era of classic TV that I just love. And I wish I could say that I watch these things curled up on the couch with my dog. If I'm watching Christmas movies, it's usually with my family, maybe. So maybe my dog's curled up next to me, or it's while I'm wrapping presents, but I'm not usually sitting on the couch just enjoying a movie. And my husband's definitely not with me, because him and I have completely different tastes in movies. We joke around, like, this is so true. Like, I grew up watching The Cosby Show. That was my idea of family. That was like what my family, we watched together and we all enjoyed together. And my husband grew up watching Married with Children. I was not allowed to watch Married with Children when I was growing up. So we had two different upbringings, and because of that, it has kind of filtered into the types of things that we enjoy watching. So he didn't really grow up with the classic TV and the classic movies and stuff. Therefore, he's not really as interested in it. He's more interested in comedy. Okay, some assumptions. I only subscribed today. Welcome. So you're assuming that I am reformed in my theology. No, I am not. There are many Reformed ministers that I admire, but if you watched my Q&A video, somebody asked me what my denomination was. I am non-denominational. I don't claim one lane over the other because I don't think there is one perfect lane, and so I don't want to attach myself to any of them. There are certain ministers that I am drawn to more than others, and I mentioned in my Q&A like John MacArthur, Vodi Bakum, Paul Washer are probably my top 3, but we will also get sent stuff from our church. They'll send us stuff from Answers in Genesis. They'll send us stuff from Alistair Begg, Sinclair Ferguson, John Piper occasionally, but John Piper, there's a lot of about his theology I don't agree with at all. Everybody, I'm open to hearing truth, and I don't really pick a lane. And you assumed that on the Myers-Briggs test that I am ESFJ. Now I'm trying to think what I am. I know I'm not E. In high school I was, but my personality has matured since then. I am an IN. I'm an INF, and I can't remember if it's J or P, honestly, now. I'll have to ask one of my friends because she's the exact same one as me. And when I first took it, it said mine is one of the most rarest personalities out there. And the personality test was spot on because one of the things that it said about my personality is that I am a closed book, but a quick read. And I thought, oh, finally somebody understands me. My entire life, I have always wondered, why am I quiet when I meet new people? Why I'm always quiet and reserved. I don't say much. I'm listening to them. I'm watching them. And it's like I'm trying to figure them out so that I know how to interact with them. And I have also felt my entire life misunderstood. Even though I feel like I'm pretty open, I am also largely misunderstood. And so that's the closed book part, because I'm open about some things, and kind of like how I told you, I don't share every detail of my life and burdens that I'm carrying with every Joe Schmo on the street. I'm not that open. So it depends on what level, I guess, of relationship I have with you which makes sense, depend on how well you understand me, but I'm a closed book. You know that show, Big Brother, that, I don't know if it's still on. I know it was on before I got married because I watched like the first season of it, but if you know anything about that show, I don't have time to explain the show to you if you've never heard about it, but my personality type, I've always thought, I think I would have done well in that show because I would have been able to read everybody and figure out everybody else, and they would have known nothing about me. Okay, and then the last assumption this person said is you come from a big family, 5+ siblings. No, I am the youngest of 3. I have 2 older brothers, but I do come from a big extended family because my dad is the 3rd of 6. And so I had a lot of cousins growing up, and some of those cousins were married by the time I was a teenager, and so then I had second cousins coming in. So my grandparents' Christmas gatherings were always quite large. One of my brothers has 8 kids, so I have a lot of nieces and nephews. In fact, you guys know I have 3 kids. Of my brothers, I have the least amount of kids. So I do have a lot of nieces and nephews. Kind of from a big family. I didn't grow up in a big family. I always wanted a big family. I wanted more than 3 kids. My husband is the one. He came from a 2-child home, so he didn't want more kids, but I think I would have welcomed any amount that the Lord would have given me. Okay, and then you are a very fun person to be around. I think my husband thinks so because that's kind of how our relationship started. We started out as friends. and we just hung around each other all the time, and we made each other laugh. And I know for me, I was not interested in him, and he said he was not interested in me for the first several months. So, but we enjoyed each other's company. And then the last assumption here is, I assume you are really funny. Great sense of humor. I don't consider myself funny, and I'm being completely honest. I know that I have a sense of humor. I like to laugh. I respond to things the way that I respond to them, and a lot of times I'm surprised that people laugh. Like even in real life, I'll say something and somebody will laugh, and to me, like, I wasn't trying to be funny. I just am who I am. But I would say, like, of me and my husband is 100 times more funny than I am. He's extremely witty, and so he will catch you off guard with his little quips that he says, and he catches people off guard all the time and makes them laugh. That's one of the things that I was attracted to about him. And even in my immediate family, my dad is very funny. My brothers are both very funny, and they are way funnier than I am. My dad and my brothers are really good storytellers, and so they will like draw you in and get you to laugh along the way, and then at the end we'll be laughing. And so, like, when we get together for family dinners or Christmas dinners and stuff, my husband will joke around that he never gets a word in, because when my dad and my brothers and me get going, I mean, we can just entertain each other for hours. But I would say I am not as funny as they are. So I don't consider myself funny. I have a lot of funny family members. My grandpa was really silly. And I have an aunt and another cousin who are also very witty and very silly. So I have grown up, and I told you, The Cosby Show was my favorite sitcom growing up. So I grew up enjoying a lot of humor in my personal life and on TV. I love to laugh, ha 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 ha, long and loud and clear. It's true. I love to laugh, but I don't consider myself funny. But it really doesn't matter. If you think I'm funny, I'm happy to make you laugh. I'm happy to entertain you. If you missed my Q&A earlier in December, check it out right here. I answered a lot of questions, a lot of questions. But I also made chapters for them in the description below, so you don't have to watch the whole video. You can just go to the questions you're interested in. Till next time, bye.